Hello, everyone. I want to take a few minutes today to explain to you how the policies of the United States government and the policies of the U.S. Federal Reserve are causing instability, inflation, poverty, and actually starvation to increase across the world. How does this occur? Today, we're seeing more and more instability in the Middle East countries and some of the poorer countries of the world. We're seeing rioting, people trying to overthrow governments, et cetera, et cetera. The U.S. government is directly and indirectly responsible for some of these things happening by their monetary policies. And this is how that occurs. Okay, we know today that the U.S. government is carrying a humongous debt. It has to finance that debt. One of the ways that it finances that debt is by printing dollars. It has the Federal Reserve, the central bank, print the dollars, which are worth nothing, and dump them into the system by buying up the United States debt. And then the Federal Reserve holds the debt. The problem with that is the Federal Reserve doesn't have any money. It doesn't have it. It only has the power to print money, but it doesn't actually have any money. This policy causes inflation, and it causes inflation all around the world. Well, how does it cause inflation all around the world? The reason is because the United States dollar is and has been considered the world reserve currency since after World War II. Prior to that, all of the world currencies were based on the gold standard. People had their central banks had gold in their vaults, which backed up their currency. In other words, their currency could be exchanged for that gold that they had in their vaults. After World War II, it was decided that instead of people having gold in their vaults and basing their currency on that gold, that they would have the U.S. dollar, because at the time the U.S. dollar was considered to be the most stable and most valuable world currency. So the world agreed to this, and from then on, the countries around the world based the value of their currency on what they had in their central banks, which was U.S. dollars. So let's take a hypothetical country of Botswana. We'll assume Botswana has a currency called the Botswana. And that currency then is based on the U.S. dollar. If there's a one-to-one exchange rate, then one Botswana would be worth one U.S. dollar. Now, when a country wanted to sell Botswana something, the way that exchange would take place is they would come to Botswana, say, with 100 pounds of grain, and that would cost the Botswana person that was buying it one Botswana. All right. So that company knew that they could exchange that grain, give it to whoever was buying it, and then they could go to the central bank in Botswana and get $1 for it. So you can see how that, if everybody thinks the dollar is valuable, desirable to have, that stabilizes the exchange of foreign transactions. It makes them easier to make, because everybody then recognizes the value of the dollar, so it can be used in exchange all over the world. Well, what happens then today when a country has their currency based on the U.S. dollar and we devalue that currency? Well, when we devalue the currency inflates, it becomes worth less. So all of the U.S. currency, dollars, in Botswana's central bank becomes worth less. Say it becomes worth less by half. Well, then the Botswana, assuming that nothing else changes, becomes worth half as much. All right, so in the United States, if, say for instance, the price of feeding myself for a day is $10, and money becomes inflated so that it costs me $20 to buy food to feed myself for a day. Well, I can handle that because I'm making, $500 a day maybe. $200 a day, whatever you're making, you're not going to starve. Okay, you can still buy your food. Well, in Botswana, that might be a totally different story because they might be only making $10 a day. So if it costs them at one point $10 a day, all their money to feed themselves, well, they can feed themselves. If all of a sudden it costs them 20 Botswanas to feed themselves, they're going to starve. So that's what's going on in the world. The reserve currency is decreasing in value, and the people in these poor countries are beginning to starve because the value of their currency is worth less. And why is it worth less? It's worth less because of what we are doing. Spending too much money, borrowing too much money, and then printing the money, which is devaluing the currency, and not only devaluing the currency here, but devaluing the currency all over the entire world. So that's where the blame lies, largely, is with the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve Bank. This is what we need to stop doing. We need to stop spending so much money that we don't have, stop borrowing so much money, and stop printing money. If we don't stop doing these things, the entire economy is going to collapse around the world, and it won't happen first here. It will happen first in the countries where it already is happening. All you got to do is watch your television set and you can see it happening. Thank you.